So today we have Matt Reynolds on the podcast. Matt is the presenter and editor of the Detailing Space over on YouTube, and he has a very special project that he's been working on for, I want to say, multiple years, but I guess we'll get the definite answer from him. So Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And did you mention before we started recording, this is the first podcast that you've ever done?
This is the first. Yeah. This is the
That you've
first
ever been a guest
podcast
on?
I've been a guest on. I've done live interviews in the past. I wouldn't call them podcasts because the
Yeah,
audio wasn't amazing. But I've done interviews before with Pan the organizer. I think Larry. I'm on NYC.
that's right.
Dodo Juice and a couple others. But yeah, podcast wise, this is my first taking part either as a presenter or a guest. So yay
Nice.
me.
Well, welcome. Yeah, you. And forgive me, I'm still like have a nagging cough that I'm trying to get over. So sometimes I start choking. Anyway, so you have this extremely detailed, unintended, I guess, detailing documentary that you've been working on for a long time. How long have you been working on it?
Oh God. That's a strange one to answer. So
I guess
um
before let's go back to like detailing in general. I think I like to start everyone off at the same place of like, why detailing? I love people's stories, so feel free to take as much time as you want.
okay,
But like I
so
love people's stories. So what is your story into detailing?
right. So first of all, then just quick background. I've been detailing, it gets mentioned at the beginning of this documentary. I've been detailing Jesus, nearly 20 years. So I'm not quite 40 yet, but ever since I learned to drive and got my first car, I, I got a really, at the time, like a 15-year-old Ford Escort. Absolutely terrible, but for me, it was great. And I
Yeah.
went out and bought this horrible green waxy, I don't know what it was, thinking back now, no idea. And I just wanted to get it looking as good as I can. So, yeah, I've been doing it ever since I've been able to drive. And then the last 7 to 10 years, I've really been keen on making videos. I've got my own personal channel where I set myself a challenge a few years ago, doing a video a week, a bit like Casey Neistat style vlogging and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. And at that time, I'd been doing detailing as a almost semi-pro, like a hobby slash do it for friends, family, and a few other strangers that want to give me some beer tokens. I'd been doing that since about 2008. Um, I then started doing more video work and I enjoy doing videos. And I knew I wanted to make a feature at some point. I don't know why, I just had this nag for creating a feature length film.
Mm.
No idea what. Um, so that would have been around 2015-ish and 2018. I met up with John Hole at Clean and Shiny and Bill, it used to be formerly called Detailing World, before Detailing
Mm-hmm.
Space. Met up with those guys. Hey guys, you don't have a YouTube channel. How about we get together, do a YouTube channel? So I wanted to specialize, get back into detailing. So I enjoy making videos. I enjoy detailing. So that's how that came about.
And
And I'd always got
your YouTube channel up until that point was,
my own personal one was just random, like family life. So
oh, okay, got it.
I filmed our
Not even detailing
wedding.
specific.
No, there'll be some detailing
Okay.
videos on there. So it's literally my YouTube channel is randomly set, just like my Instagram handle.
Okay.
But I wasn't doing it for the views and the subs. I mean, even now it's on like 500 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
It just sits there. So yeah, I put my personal videos onto that. So then I thought, well, I need to get a niche. You know, that's the way to be successful on YouTube
Right.
is specialize in something. So obviously detailing that I really enjoy detailing. Let's make detailing videos. And from the moment we started doing the detailing world, because it was previously called detailing world before the detailing space, from the first few months of setting that up, I knew I wanted to make a feature. And I still, at that point, didn't know what. I just knew I wanted to make one. Roll around COVID times, it then hit me. It's like, I want to make a feature on detailing. But again, it's like, what? You can't make a Spider-Man film
Mm-hmm.
for detailers. It's like, it's got to be a documentary. It's got to
Mm-hmm.
be. And then it was from there, it's just whenever you Google now the history of detailing, you will find a few sites that are all pretty much copy and pasted. And it will say in the 60s, this is what happened. And then it just jumps like the 90s. And it was like,
Yeah,
we had
and then
wash and
clay
wax.
bars were invented, and they're like, wait, what? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It'll go to like 1999. Clay bars
Mm-hmm.
came out of Korea and
Mm-hmm.
around the world. And then mid 2000s, ceramics popped up. And that's
Right.
pretty much all you got. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
there's more to, I know enough people now
Mm-hmm.
within the industry to cover this properly. Like, how have we got from literally turtle wax, the original like, sort of shampoos, and
Mm-hmm.
we have tea cut over even here in the UK. How have we got from the basic products to this ridiculously huge industry that we've now got? You know, you look at some of the companies, and some companies will have 10, 12, 15 shampoos alone, let
Mm-hmm.
alone just 10 products within the entire range. So yeah, it's just a whole story. So it was, yeah, it's took a lot of time. So going back to how long I've been working on this, then I suppose we'd say it's like 3.5 years.
Okay.
And I
Wow.
think I first hit the record button about 2 years ago with Jim White.
Got
He
it.
was I'd done some B-roll before that, some concept ideas to send off to people. But the first recorded interview was Jim White nearly 2 years ago. And then met you guys up in Vegas last year at SEMA. And then, yeah,
You know what's
editing for
interesting
the
about
past 12
that?
months.
Oh my gosh. I yeah, I don't even I couldn't even imagine. I've seen some of your pictures of your screen and your editing bar, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." Just keeping track of all that and trying to figure that out. But you know what? To your point of like there's really not really a properly documented history of detailing. I remember I had the epiphany one time when I was interviewing, I think I was talking to Jason Rose at
Mhm.
McGuire's. It was a McGuire's podcast. And I asked them and I said, you know, it says since 1901, but I've never heard anyone talk about were cars even invented yet in 1901? You know, and they said, well, no, cars weren't. It actually, you know, the first McGuire's products were furniture polish. And that's actually where the McGuire's family started was,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you could tell this is in furniture polish. And I actually even have a couple old McGuire's bottles that are from their furniture polish days. And because the first cars were wood. And so they, you know, it started there. So but I never even thought about that because I never heard any differently. And I kind of just assumed that like people don't lie about what year they started the business, right? I'm not saying McGuire's lied at all. There's other brands that have lied, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's. I was like, wait, 1901. Wait, what year were cars even made? Like, hold on a second, you know, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of that is because there's no proper documentation of the history of detailing. So that's one of the reasons why I'm super excited about this.
Yeah. So I think so. I'm doing kind of like the narration, the bridging of subjects. And then in the documentary, Mike Phillips, I guess, is the historian,
Okay,
the
yeah.
main guy. So yeah, the first 5 or 10 minutes is pretty much Mike Phillips solid.
Which
But
is
he will,
actually probably a pretty good call because that guy
yes.
has some serious knowledge about you know, and I got privy to you sent me over the documentary, so I was able to watch it, and I'm just like, within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, dude, this guy has more knowledge about early car care than I've ever even heard. You
Okay,
know,
so what's more impressive about that then? So obviously you've seen the documentary, the people listening or watching this now, they may be about to see this. Um, so you, Pan, and everyone else that's part of the documentary, you was all given a not a script, but a basic outline of questions that I was going
sure.
to be talking about, subjects that we'd talk about. I'd been in touch with Mike Phillips for about a year, saying, "Look, can we get together? Can we do something?" He was going through job change. He
Mm-hmm.
left. Was it Auto Geek? I think he
Auto
was at
Geek, yeah,
prior
and
to
then
three, and then he went to 3D.
3D, and then he just recently moved again. I saw in a lot of the stuff he was wearing his 3D clothes at SEMA, and I'm like, oh, bummer.
Yeah, so we was like, can we get together? It was very difficult to get together, so it was kind of
Mm.
like I'd almost given up. And then I went to say hi to him at SEMA, not expecting anything from him. And he's like, right, what can I do for you? He's got no preparation whatsoever. So I told him, well, I just want you to talk to
Mm.
camera for like maybe half an hour before the show starts. Can we do that? Yeah, do that tomorrow.
The good thing
Literally,
about that is Mike Phillips can talk forever. So,
yes, and
you
I got
know,
the cameras set up. He had no idea what we was talking about, and all of that.
incredible.
It's not like the guys had to go off and research it.
Right.
He just
Knows it.
knows. It's ridiculous. Well, and I've cut a lot out. So there's a lot more footage than what's
Wow.
in the documentary. It is absolutely ridiculous what that
Well, and
guy
even
knows.
Mike has a excuse me, has an extensive knowledge from basically I think I had him on the podcast a long time ago, so my memory's a little fuzzy on it. But I want to say he was like either the inventor of the forums or because he worked at McGuire's, right? He was one of the founding people of like the McGuire's online forum. I don't know if he invented
Yeah,
it, but he was a big part of that back in the day, right?
that's right. Yeah. So I was on the Detail and World forums back when they first started,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things at the time we wanted to get Mike Phillips to be to be a member of our forum as well. I say I wasn't an owner, I was just a member.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so it was like there's a section dedicated to Ask Mike Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been, I think, highly regarded, especially for those new into detailing. They may not know who Mike Phillips is, but for those who have been around a long time, they've certainly heard that name, and
Mm-hmm.
they know what how much he knows as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was absolutely fantastic getting him on, as well as everybody else, of course.
Of
But
course.
yeah, for no preparation, it was just ridiculous what he
Yeah.
knew. Absolutely crazy.
And you know, when I was watching him talk too, and I haven't, to be honest, I haven't finished your entire video yet, but as I'm watching Mike talk, I was like thinking to myself, this is so important that we have this documented. Like
Mm,
not only Mike talking, but if you think about it, you know, how does the history of anything become known? And it's by people talking about it, right?
yeah,
And so without it documented, I mean, some of these guys, not Mike, but even Mike, they're getting older, you know, and they're getting to
yeah,
retirement age. And I thought, man, if these guys just retire, you know, and don't talk about these things, it'll just go away. And then we'll
yeah.
have no idea. And then we'll be left with, you know, having to type it into Chat GPT to come up with a, you know, give us an idea of what happened to the history of car detailing, you know?
Yeah,
But
and these brands you just take for granted. They've been there forever.
mm-hmm,
Maguire's, Turtle Wax in the UK,
mm-hmm.
we've got Auto Gleam as well. They've just been there, but how did they
How?
start? They didn't just come out with 20 products like you can do today. And
mm-hmm,
like you just mentioned, and Mike
mm-hmm,
mentions it, is Maguire started off as furniture polish, and then
mm-hmm.
has evolved onto protecting the wood of your cars, and then the metal aspects and all of that stuff.
And I know you're decked
Um,
out in turtle wax gear right now too, but it's like I think about it in relation to like if you were there with, you know, Mr. Hirsch at the inception of Turtle Wax and when he's changing the name, right, to
mm,
Turtle Wax, and like could you imagine if he had like an audio recording of that or like a video recording of that? Like that would be insane, you
yeah.
know? And that's the opportunity I think that you are really capitalizing on with this detailing documentary, and really the obligation I think a lot of us have in this industry is to document these things so that future people can be like, wow, look at this, you
Mm.
know? And luckily I think a lot of people are interested in that, you know?
I really hope they are.
Yeah, it's
There's
because what is the in well, I don't know if that's an accurate question. I was going to say what is the incentive for you to do this, I guess, you know, because it does seem like such a huge task and such a time suck, you know, that did you just want to see if you could do it? Did you, is it
it
part of your creativity? Like, you know,
it was more of a personal challenge. Yeah,
okay,
it's just been, like I say, it's an itch that I've not been able to scratch for a few years because
got it.
I didn't know what to do. And then when I did know it had to be on detailing, it then took me about 6 months to realize it had to be a documentary. I still, how can I make detailing an hour long film?
And
Like,
you had never done this anything even, I mean, other than filming your wedding and stuff, never even done anything remotely close to this.
the closest I've possibly done is the odd interview. So I went to, there's a company in the UK called Carchem.
Mm-hmm,
They make products. I believe they may manufacture a white label as well for private
mm-hmm,
companies.
mm-hmm.
So I did an interview with the MD there, but that was just like one camera and a GoPro, nothing to this level. Like, yeah, this was a challenge for me. It's also been extremely stressful
I
and
would
time
imagine.
consuming.
I would imagine.
When I just want to mention it now before I forget while I'm thinking of it. So everybody thought when I went to Vegas, oh, it's fantastic. You've got to go to Vegas. You've got to go to SEMA. I didn't leave that hall of SEMA. Meanwhile, Jack Kavanagh at Stianaglos, he's gone around everywhere. He's seen everything pretty much at SEMA, and everybody else has as well. They've all gone into various halls. All I was focused on was getting as much footage as possible, interviewing as many people as possible. Me and you had to find that random place
Yep, I
in the
remember that.
hallway.
I remember
um,
that.
and it felt like I couldn't enjoy it. And then when I got back
Mm.
home, then the stress, because all the cameras that I'm using, dual SD cards. So it's like, right, I cannot afford to lose any footage, cannot afford to lose
Oh, and it's
audio.
so much footage. It's like I
I
think that's
have
one. Yeah,
I
sorry
have
to cut you
three
off.
co- I have sorry, I have three copies of everything.
I think we talked about this there too.
I've got them on NAS drives, I've got portable
Mm-hmm.
hard drives all over. The amount of stress, and
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that I felt overwhelmed when I came back and I just opened the timeline, all the clips, and I just thought, wow, I think I closed the project after that. I just looked at it, could have broke down.
Yeah.
Even now, I feel like a bit emotional talking about it. It's been so
Yeah.
stressful and so overwhelming. But I'm glad I've done it.
Yeah.
Even if it only got 100 views, I'm just glad that I've done it. I really hope it doesn't. I really hope it
Is it
does go
out
on.
of the time of this recording or no? Not yet.
So this is going to be out on the 27th of
27.
October.
Okay, got it. So a couple weeks from now. So
Yeah.
I'll actually hold this and wait. So when people are listening to it, it'll be live so they can go
Yeah.
watch it right away.
And it'll be live over on the Detailing Space YouTube channel as well.
Perfect. And
And
I'll link it below.
yeah, and it will be running unless YouTube interrupts it. Otherwise, there should be no adverts to interrupt it. So
Oh, cool. Okay.
I want it just be like you turn on Netflix, sit
Mm-hmm.
down, and you're watching an hour long documentary, and rather than serial killers and everything else, Netflix likes
Totally.
it's going to be something on cleaning cars, because what's more exciting than that?
How did you come up with even like an outline? Like how did you even know what you wanted to cover? Or did that start to get revealed as you were doing the documentary?
No, that was planned. That had to be planned. I couldn't afford to do it on a whim, so I knew I had to cover as far back as I could go. So I have got a spreadsheet somewhere. And I'd spent, before I'd even written a script or got much into the documentary, I went through every major manufacturer I could think of, went to their about page, when was you formed, and just had a quick look at the timeline of. So I know nearly every major manufacturer's foundation date, whether
So
that
who
was
was
as
the
a.
first? Was it McGuire's or was there someone
I
that
think it is
predated McGuire's?
Maguire's. Then you've got, it gets weird over in Europe.
I was
I
going to say
can't.
that too. So I was going to ask you that real quick because you're over in the UK, if people can tell
Yes,
by
yeah.
your accent, right? But
Yeah.
where did car care start? Did it start in the US?
It may be, or it may be. I can't find. I'm looking for the
No, that's fine.
spreadsheet now.
Don't
Actually,
yeah.
at the top, it may have been
Watch
in
the documentary,
Germany.
you'll figure it out.
Yeah, it could possibly have been in Germany as well.
Okay.
So there's, I think 3M as a company started early, but 3M are so much more than polishing. Of course,
Right.
they make a lot of adhesives and all
Did they
sorts of weird
start
things.
in car care though?
I don't believe they did.
Okay,
No, I
got
think
it.
they entered car care. But yeah, I think it either started in Germany or America. I can't remember off the top of my head. Somebody, no doubt, in the comments
Of
will
course, they already know.
correct me.
They're yelling at the video right now.
Yeah, and they're probably thinking the whole thing's like, I don't know what I'm talking about now, so the documentary is a waste of time. But my
No
brain's been
way.
fried
Still,
by this.
it's no, this has been an extreme labor of love. They have to go watch the documentary. Got it.
But anyway,
Mhm.
so to write the script, so yeah, it was we'll go we'll start at the beginning, and then I knew I wanted to get to the end talking about
Mhm.
ceramics. So I
Mm.
had a beginning, I had an end, and it's like, how do I get from A to Z? I've got to go through all
Mhm.
these other points, and I'm
Mhm.
just thinking, what are the major advancements in
Right.
not just in detailing, but in the vehicles and paint. So I knew in the 80s. You had the VOC ban, so they had to change the paint technologies on how they spray the paint. And then, of course, come the 2000s and the last decade or so, you've then got the rise of the influencers and the internet. So that's changed since. I'm like, I need to bridge these gaps. How do I get to this? So I've literally, it's in my mind, and there's probably other people who've done documentaries, maybe watching this, thinking I've done it totally wrong. I don't think you can't script a documentary when it's all
Right.
interviews because I don't know what you're going to say.
Right. Right.
But the best I could do was write it in a 3 sequence story. So act one, two, and three.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have an introduction, so a brief history, and then how the first products were made. So that's Ben Hirsch making polish in a bathtub, and
Mm-hmm.
then the development of paints and lacquers. So that was Act One.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got on to what was the we needed an obstacle for Act Two. Let's bridge it over. What was the VOC ban?
Mm-hmm.
And then we was also limited as well by product choice, as I mentioned earlier on. Turtle Wax didn't start with 20 products; they had a
Mm-hmm.
couple, and all you had access to, and I think you mentioned this as well in the documentary, is what was available down at AutoZone or your
Mm-hmm.
local in the UK's Halfords.
Right.
That was your product choice.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go online, so then it was companies popping up. How did they pop up? Well, that was because of the internet. So the online shopping
Mm.
experience, Amazon, and then nowadays you've got Shopify and even just selling stuff via Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go on to how do influencers help? How do they improve the product? So they bridging the gap between Joe Public, who's watching these videos and podcasts and just using them on the driveway, to how do you get the information from the consumer to the manufacturer? Well, you've got the likes of myself, you, Pan the organizer, you've got John Hall at Clean and Shiny. You can talk
Mm-hmm.
to us, and we've got connections at the suppliers, the manufacturers.
Right.
So you know what, you might benefit from making this product or make this more durable or more whatever it may be. So that's kind of how I wrote it, and I just
Mm-hmm.
needed you guys to talk about it.
And we did probably, right? You probably had, especially when it came to influencers, you probably had no problem talking to people, right?
That was probably the right one. That was the easy one to get a hold of. It was getting the right ones that I really wanted, and there's a lot. So apologies to anyone who thinks I've ignored them or not invited them. I also wanted to limit it to an influencer, a manufacturer, and a detailer, one
Mm.
from the UK side and one from the US side. So I covered both. So that was the other thing that made this a challenge. I could have quite easily, say easily, easier than this,
Mm-hmm.
just done a detailing documentary on the UK. But I know
Sure.
that's not going to,
Yeah.
it's going to be a
Right.
totally different documentary to what you guys in the US are going to watch. So I knew I had to cover both sides of the
Everything.
pond. And I know I say UK, but essentially all of Europe as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, you literally
So
covered like the worldwide history of the detailing space. Maybe it's actually kind of cool. You could probably, I don't know if you want to take on another project of this magnitude. You're probably like, hey, I'm done. I'm done with this. But you could probably even create like mini series now around like, you know, detailing in the UK, detailing in the US, detailing here, detailing there, right?
it's funny you mention that. So before I even got to Vegas and recorded you guys, I'd already had a sequel planned for this.
Got it.
I don't think I want to do that now unless somebody can
Pay you to do nothing but do that. Yeah.
exactly. If someone can throw enough money my way, that not just pay me to do it full time, I need a crew. That's one
Yeah.
thing I've learned from this.
Yeah.
You saw what I was running about with at SEMA. I had
I
a
mean,
backpack
it's a
full
total
of cameras.
nightmare. Yeah, it's like I don't think people realize how much work goes into recording video. Because you had
Yeah,
multiple angles, then you have the footage, and then you want to capture the footage in like a high quality, which takes up more storage space, right?
yeah,
And then you got to think about, okay, what do I want to ask this person? What do I want to talk about? And then you have all the footage, and then you got to go. It's like never ending torture because it was just hell to record it all, right? You lugged all this camera gear. It's like you walk a zillion miles at SEMA carrying all this crap, right? And then you
yep,
still, it's like you didn't even start yet. It's like then you got all the footage and then you got to do something with that footage. And I
yep,
always think like just organizing the footage alone so you know what you have is a
yeah.
nightmare.
Those, I think I will have to put up some more screenshots. So those timelines, it's organized chaos. It's the only way I can
Yeah.
describe it. It was, so I'd got, like you say, I had two cameras on everybody in Vegas. Jim White, I had three cameras on because he just happened to have a GH5 lying around. So grabbed a third angle with his camera.
Mhm.
And then it was like, right, so how I can edit in multicam, I know how to do that. So this is all the geeky
Yeah,
editing
yeah.
speak now. People may, this might not interest folk, but it interests me. I know how to edit in multicam, but how
Hmm.
do I organize this? And again, the way I've had to do it, I've had to get multiple sequences, so act 1, 2, and 3 on separate sequences, put in my markers for the chapters, essentially the questions that I'm asking you guys, and
Mm.
then drop all of your response in there, all of Pan's response, and then chop that up to where I only want the certain bits that you say, that Pan says. Then go back through it again and select the camera angles that I want, and then
Oh
go
my
back through and look
gosh.
for the B-roll that sort suits that. Then do the same for Act 2 and Act 3, and then chuck that all into a master timeline, and then put an intro onto it, put an outro onto it. It's
Insanity.
I've just made that sound really simple, but trust me, that's
Yeah,
taken
it's a
like a
total
year.
nightmare. Totally. Yeah. What was I know that you had a lot of hard things in this, it'd probably be hard to nail down like what was the hardest, but what was one of the most and it could be multiple things, it doesn't have to be one, but what was one of the things that was most interesting to you, or like when you heard it or saw it or learned about it that you were like, wow, I never have heard that before, or like I never even thought about that before. Is there one that sticks out to you?
I'll have a think, but straight away. Last night was the first time I've watched it from start to finish.
Mm.
So I've sent the link out to you guys. Obviously, I've been sat in the edit constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched it from start to finish
Yeah,
with the
because you
wife.
do
Like,
have a full-time job. Just sorry to
yeah.
interrupt, but
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
you have a full-time job. This is like
Oh,
a passion play.
if you want to add to that, before I planned this, I wasn't a dad.
God, and your dad. Yeah.
So I've had a child whilst doing all this as well as a
Yeah.
full-time
You're
job.
crazy.
Uh, and
You're
also
insane.
keeping up with my weekly YouTube videos.
Oh,
They were supposed to be weekly until last year, and then they went to
yeah.
bi-weekly. Um, so where was I going with this? Where was I going? The most interesting thing that I learned, it wasn't necessarily about the processes or anything. It's how nearly all of you, when I asked you what the difference was between valeting and detailing. Oh no,
Mm.
sorry, not the difference. The definition of detailing. What was your
Mm.
response? Can you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Probably something about like the beautification of a car.
Close. I think you, I believe Jim, Cozzy at Turtle Wax, and Pan all referenced detailing as an art form.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
that's right.
found that quite amazing. Actually, it's like it is. It actually, I've never thought of it like that before. And when you mentioned it,
Mm-hmm.
it really stood out. When I think it was the last interview that I did,
Mm-hmm.
and it really stood out when you said it. And then going back through the footage, I'm like, oh wow, Pan said it as well, and Jim
Mm.
Cosy, because I wasn't always aware of what you were saying because I was
Sure.
backwards and
Yeah,
forwards
yeah.
between the cameras, making sure I was keeping focus, making sure the audios was fine. So when I was recording Pan and Jim, I never really noticed that they'd said it was an art form. I'd noticed you'd said it, but
Mm-hmm.
going back through the edit, that's one thing. Yeah, that I found quite interesting that you consider it to be an art. And as I say, I guess in a way, it is. You're going above and beyond what anyone ever expects. We clean parts of cars that people are never going to see in their life. We take
Right.
the lug nuts, as you guys call them, the wheel nuts out, we'll polish them up. Why?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get
Mm-hmm.
absolutely battered again, but
Right,
we
right,
do
right.
it because it's just in us
Mm-hmm.
to make that look absolutely fantastic, even if it is only for the next few months of its life and then it gets absolutely trashed again.
Mm-hmm.
It's looked the best it's ever looked in its life.
Mm-hmm.
So I did find that quite interesting. Like
It's
you
always
considered it an art form.
Yeah, it's always cool when there's like a through theme through stuff too, when you're talking to various different people, and then there's like a common theme that people start talking about, and it kind of, I'm sure it helps tie everything together.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It was amazing that.
That's awesome. So, and Prosimo is probably the best place to go to see everyone, huh?
It was, yeah. So I want to say thanks to Turtle Wax as well. So they helped me get out to see
Mm.
me. Otherwise, it would have become a very, very expensive project because I wanted, you remember I was emailing you, I
Yeah.
wanted to get out there. I didn't, I didn't just want to say, can you film yourself
Right.
answering these questions? I wanted to be in full control as to
Mhm.
how the angles look. I had certain looks in my head. We
Sure.
was a bit pushed on yours because we didn't really have anywhere to go.
Right.
But yeah, if I'd have flown out
I don't
to,
have a bad angle though.
you don't know, it was just the background wasn't the most
Yeah.
flattering. But if I was to fly out to Montreal, I think is where Pan is, LA to you, down into Florida to see Mike Phillips, back
Mhm.
to Chicago, it would have just been ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the fact all of you guys were heading SEMA, I just kind of asked to Alex nicely, and he said yeah.
Hey, you can get a lot of
So
things done when you just ask nicely, right?
yeah, so again, thanks to Alex for helping, really helping a lot, um,
Yeah, man.
making this happen basically.
They've been a great brand to me too. So
Yeah,
they're
absolutely
they're
fantastic guys.
they're awesome. So if people want to watch the documentary, or I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about. I just want to really encourage people to, you know, I don't have any skin in the game other than I think it's a great documentary. So, and I want to encourage people to do that. I'll obviously link it up. We already mentioned how they can find it, but mention how they could find it again. And I will hold this podcast until it is live. So if you're listening to this podcast, it will be available to watch right away. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that, is there anything else you wanted to add to it or encourage people to do, or anything you wanted to make sure you got across?
Just yeah, just please watch it. That's
Please
honestly
watch
it.
it
Play it like
and
this
put
has
it on
taken.
replay and have it watch it all night while you sleep. How
Yeah,
about that too?
even if you did that, I'd appreciate it. This has taken 3 or 4 years of my life. I'm just asking for an hour of people
Definitely.
to watch it, and I think if you're into detailing, hopefully,
Definitely.
hopefully you'll find it interesting. And I'm hoping, I don't know what your opinions are. I'd love to hear your feedback on the edit. There is a few hiccups in the version you've got,
Sure. Okay.
but I've fixed those now. So hopefully it's a nice edit for people to watch, and there'll not be too much criticisms on that. But please, yeah, if people can watch it just an hour of the time, that's all I'm asking.
Just watch it for the guy. Come on,
I've done it
guys.
for
We
the
could do
community. I've done it for the
it.
community. As I said, is yeah, it is literally kind of like a box ticking exercise. I wanted to tick it off my bucket list.
Yeah.
I've done it. Great. We'll see if I do a sequel. I've got a sequel. I'm one of these guys. I have all these ideas.
Sure.
I just don't have the resources. I've got a
Sure.
6 part. I've got like a 6 part Netflix series in my head. I ain't ever going to do that, but I've got that
No.
planned. It's stored away
Got a
back
plan
there.
just in case. I know I think a lot of us are like that, where we just have all these ideas and aspirations for things and we're like, I just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
It's tough, but
So if anyone from Netflix is watching this, yeah, hit me up.
never know, man. The internet is a crazy place. So you never know what could happen.
There's some weird oh, and speaking of documentaries, I have watched nearly every documentary
Mm,
on Netflix to get ideas on how to film
yeah.
and all of that stuff. And yeah,
Right on. Well, before we end this, how can people, let's just remind people how they could actually watch it. Again, I'll have it linked below to make it easy. But if people are searching, how can they find the documentary or how can they find you?
so the documentary is simply going to be called Detailed. It will be over on the YouTube channel for the detailing space. So youtube.com/the detailing space. You can also check us out on Instagram as well at the detailing space. And my personal handle on there as well is at randomly set. So there'll be plenty of links over this next few months, no doubt, promoting this. I really do want people to watch this. Yeah, I'm hoping people will find it educational and hopefully enjoyable as well, and learn a bit of something that they may not have known, even if it's just about the favorite detailers. There's a lot of
Mhm.
love for Pan and Jim and everyone else, and yourself and John Hall and everybody else that's been in this. So I'm hoping we've got a nice mix of participants within it that
Thank you, do.
a lot of the audience is going to enjoy.